Welcome back to the channel. This is Altcoin Era and this is your boy Ahmed, and today we're going to look into the cryptoverse. Markets today are on edge. Literally, they are on edge. You can cut the tension with a knife, and we're going to look into BTC. We're going to go straight to the charts and we're going to look back in time, and we're going to look at the previous results, what happened after the election. Here was November during 2016. BTC had a meteoric rise after the election and he went up a whopping 2,843%. And again in 2020, straight after the election, we went up a whopping 375%. 2024 is pivotal. If history is any indication, we should go up higher. And I know a lot of people are talking about that we're gonna go higher. Yeah, in 2017, 2016, 54 days later, we were much higher. In 2020, 58 days later, we were much higher. And in 2024, if it shows any kind of remnants to the previous histories in 2016 and 2020, we should be much higher. As you can see here, this is Bitcoin's monthly return. And as of now, in November, we're down slightly 3.94%. If we look at 2020, we had 3 monthly candles. And if we look at 2016, we had 4 monthly candles. Q4 is normally a bullish month for BTC. On the quarterly, we are up currently 6.39%. However, Ethereum is down 7.15%. I want to go back to the BTC charts. I want to show you something interesting because I know everyone and their hamster is talking about how we're going to get to 100K. Okay, I'm with you. I'm totally with you in the long term. But what is very important is altcoins. What will happen to altcoins? So I just looked at Ethereum's chart, and in November during the elections, after the elections, in November 2016, Ethereum actually went downwards for that month. In 2020, Ethereum also went downwards, and now currently in 2024, November, it looks like Ethereum might head downwards. I emphasize this point because Ethereum is a leading indicator for the rest of the market, for the rest of altcoins. BTC may go up higher, but it doesn't necessarily mean that altcoins are going to go higher as well. Alts don't necessarily in their entirety do very well during Q4. It's only in 2025 Q1 that alts do outperform BTC. Here is a better illustration, and we have in 2012 November. After the elections, BTC was at $11.81. After that, it had a meteoric rise to $1,000. Thereafter, November the 8th, 2016, BTC went up massively after the elections. And again in 2020 November. We have 2 main arguments in the cryptoverse. The first one is seasonality. What happened before will happen again, and we don't need to overthink it. It's going to head to 100K plus. Or we still have massive headwinds like monetary policy. I'll show you on the chart right over here. And if I put the Fed's funds rate over here and I just overlay it onto the chart, we still have high rates of interest rates at the moment. And when they cut, it is not for the betterment of our altcoins. It goes with Ethereum as well. It's not at the betterment for our altcoins. They're not doing this to help us out. They're doing this because the economy is struggling. As you can see right over here, Ethereum during this cutting cycle was just moving sideways to downwards during this period. And if it's any indication, we might see Ethereum struggling during this period. It's not until Q4, the next following post-halvening, that Ethereum outperforms BTC. Let's have a look at BTC and the possibilities of what will happen next. If Trump wins, then of course we're going much higher. That is a no-brainer. Everyone and their hamster knows this. Trump is pro-crypto and he's pro altcoins.
The future of crypto and the future of Bitcoin will be made in the USA, not driven overseas. I will support the right to self-custody to the nation's 50 million crypto holders. I say this with your vote. I will keep Elizabeth Warren and her goons away from your Bitcoin. And I will never allow the creation of a central bank digital currency.
And here he is again.
On day one, I will fire Gary Gensler and appoint a new SEC chairman.
However, if Kamala Harris wins the election, which is going to be tight, it's going to be very, very, very tight. If she wins the elections, then of course BTC is heading downwards. But ultimately, we're still going to go to 100,000 US dollars. If we have a very tight election, in 2000 is a good example. I don't know if some of you were around during that period, but we had a very, very tight election.
That means automatic recount.
The suspense is mounting in Florida tonight.
Probably at least 500 people outside, spirited demonstrators both for Bush and Gore.
The presidential race of 2000 turned the American experiment on its head. And as the clock ticks towards another consequential election, we thought we should look back at this pivotal moment in history and see what the past can tell us about the present.
At what point did you realize, oh, this isn't going to be your average presidential election?
Tim Russert and I knew almost immediately because it kept whipsawing back and forth.
On election night, NBC was the first network to call the key state of Florida for Vice President Al Gore until
NBC News is now taking Florida out of Vice President Gore's column and putting it back in the too close to call column.
And then I was getting phone calls from those two campaigns, and they were saying, oh, don't go too far too fast here.
Hillary Rodham Clinton was a big winner tonight. I was covering Hillary Clinton's Senate campaign, and the President of the United States leans down from the stage and says to me, Andrea, how is Al doing in Florida?
Then in the early hours of Wednesday, November 8th, the networks made a very different call.
Bush is the president-elect of the United States. He has won the state of Florida.
Gore called George W. Bush to concede, but took it back after Florida showed less than a 2,000 vote margin. The nation was left in limbo.
We don't just have egg in our face, we've got omelet all over our suits.
So what was the pulse of the country like at that time?
I think the country is very mature, quite honestly. I think that they were willing to be patient. They wanted to get it right.
The close results in Florida triggered an automatic recount, narrowing Bush's lead to just 327 votes. Both campaigns lawyered up, with Gore pushing for a hand recount.
And we've heard a lot about Chad, so let's just do a quick lesson in Chads.
If you went to vote in Florida, you had a punched card that you would stick into a device. And to vote for a candidate, you would punch out with a stylus, you would punch next to the name.
And then you had the dimpled ballots where the ballot was not quite punched through, and you had the hanging Chads. The round part from the punch hole was kind of hanging.
And the question was, does that count as a vote or not?
Manual recounts kicked off, but it was taking a long time. And on November 15th, Florida Secretary of State Katherine Harris said time was up. She wanted to certify the results.
I've decided it is my duty under Florida law to exercise my discretion in denying these requested amendments.
Harris emerged as a controversial figure. She was the co-chair of Bush's campaign in Florida and worked with his brother Jeb, the governor of Florida at the time.
It went back and forth so many times because there were circuit court rulings and there were state court rulings in Florida over whether the count could continue.
Then, 2 weeks after Election Day, Florida's Supreme Court ruled the counties had 5 days to finish the recounts. But there were distractions.
You had a Republican protest at one point where the county officials in one of the counties in South Florida were trying to recount votes.
Every vote counts. Every vote counts.
It became known as the Brooks Brothers riot. Miami-Dade County voted to stop their recount just hours later. An election in which more than 100 million people voted, in many ways, came down to the tense recount battle in this one vital county, now halted. That same day, the Bush campaign asked the U.S. Supreme Court to get involved, dragging the election to the night of December 12th.
It was very, very cold outside, and I was standing out there with then Dan Abrams, who was then working for NBC, and he and I grabbed the decision and we started trying to read through it.
It does appear, as I look through here, to be a 5-4 opinion.
And what the Supreme Court, the U.S. Supreme Court, ultimately said was that Florida was not treating the recount questions the same. In some counties, a dimpled Chad counted as a vote. In some counties, it did not. But the Supreme Court said there wasn't enough time to start the recount over.
But there's no doubt here, Tom.
Basically, what happened was it was a deadlock. If we get a scenario like this, it's going to be the worst thing for markets, because markets need clarity. If we get a situation like the 2000s between George W. Bush and Al Gore, then markets are going to go ballistic. They're going to go crazy. There's going to be so much whipsaws happening during this time. Markets need clarity. It's imperative that markets have clarity. If Kamala Harris wins, then altcoins are gonna get wrecked. However, meme coins are gonna go to the moon, because meme coins don't need any clarity. They don't need any regulation. They don't need anything. If Donald Trump wins, then altcoins are going to the moon. My main argument is this. We do have looming interest rate cuts. We do have unemployment at the moment, which is providing a headwind to the markets. Let's have a look at poly markets and let's have a closer inspection of what's happening so far and where people think this election is heading. At the moment, Donald Trump is at 57.7% and Kamala Harris is at 42.4%. I know the whole entire crypto market is dependent on Donald Trump to win the elections, and I'm definitely on the same page. However, the markets have not priced in a Kamala Harris win. So we're going to find out and see. We have two major headwinds. We have the elections and monetary policy. That's happening on Thursday. Here are the key events this week. We have number one, the US presidential elections on Tuesday. And then we have the non-manufacturing PMI data on Tuesday, followed by the initial jobless claims data on Thursday. And most importantly, which is very important, we have the FOMC meeting happening on Thursday. And then finally, we have 15% of the S&P 500 companies reporting their earnings. It's going to be a massive, huge week ahead. Let's have a look at the crypto bubbles and let's have a look at the hourly. At the moment, we have Fetch, we have Near, we have BTC, Ray, and we have Ondo. Let's have a look at the daily. On the daily, Bonk is up 2.5%. We have Sue and it's up 1.4%. We have Mog and it's up 3.4%. And finally, we have ENA, which is up 4%. Let's have a look at the weekly. And on the weekly, generally markets are down on the weekly. Phantom is down 16%, surprisingly. We have IMX and it's down 17%. We also have Render, it's down 10%. Across the board, this week has been a massive de-risking event just before the elections. BTC price targets currently at $67,828. It looks like we're heading to this area of support at 66,000, like I said previous episode. Then we're heading down to 62,000. For the bullish momentum, ideally what I want to see is it to bounce at this area at 66,000 US dollars. If that's not the case, then we're going to head to 62,000 US dollars. Ethereum, let's have a look at Ethereum. And Ethereum is just moving sideways at the moment. It's going to kiss my area of confluence at $2,334. Let's have a look at Solana. And Solana is heading back down gradually to my area of support at $148. Ultimately, I think Solana is heading back down to this area and then to $126. If it breaks $126, then we're heading to $100. That's my medium to long-term view of Solana. I might be wrong, but as of now, we've just been oscillating around this area for the longest. So we'll see what happens next. Let's have a look at some of your favorite altcoins. ADA doesn't look good at all. ADA looks like it's about to break this support and head to 24 cents. We haven't been here since 2023, and we're just very, very close to falling off a cliff. It's gonna go down 24%. XRP currently at 50 cents, and we've broken this trend line. It doesn't look like we're going to reclaim this trend line, unfortunately, and it looks like we're heading lower. I did say this many times. If it doesn't hold this trend line, then of course we're heading much lower. My next target for XRP is at 33 cents. DOT currently at 37 cents. Sorry, at $3.78, and we're neutral at the moment. It doesn't look good indeed. Doesn't look good at all. At the moment, it is Bitcoin season, and currently we're at 27, kissing 25. If we drop even further, then we're heading to May of 2023, where this was the very lowest area where alts got to. Who knows? We might get to this area of 3%, which is gonna be a massive hit to altcoins. We're gonna have to see and find out. If Kamala wins, then altcoins are gonna get crushed. If Trump wins, then altcoins are gonna go further and higher, and this is just gonna be a higher low, and a continuation into altcoin season. Time will tell. A few more days now, a few more hours now, and time will tell. Link price targets currently at $10.31. Next support is at $8.87. We have Stacks, which was a good narrative, and it's still forming, ideally it's still forming higher low. This is definitely a good coin to watch. Currently we're just hitting this support line, and I want to show you something interesting. Let's have a look at total. Let's have a look at total one. And surprisingly, we didn't form a higher high. We found ourselves forming a higher low, which isn't a great sign at all. Currently, we're at 2.2 trillion. Let's have a look at one of my favorites, is Total 2, and this chart is just picture perfect. Every time people get super bullish, what happens? We get rejected and head lower. Every time people get very bearish, what happens? We kiss this area and we head up higher. This is a very good chart. It helps you drown out all the noise, to be fair. If you look at Total 2, honestly, it helps you drown all the noise, all the hearsay, everything. And this chart will just give you a bird's eye view of what's to come next. Most likely we're heading to this area of around 810 billion. If we don't hold, then we're heading lower to this area. Now, what is very important is that we're going to have our FOMC meeting very soon, which is happening on the 7th of November. And this is normally a very pivotal time for crypto indeed. Most likely we're having a 25 basis point cut. And I think this is like the consensus, I believe, is like 99% consensus as of today. So 98% consensus, we're having a 25 basis points. If we look back in history and the very first rate cutting cycle, we actually went down into the rate cuts. Likewise, we're doing the exact same pattern, and we're going down into the rate cutting cycle. Thereafter, we subsequently pumped after the rate cuts. Most likely we're going to bleed into our next rate cutting cycle. Thereafter, we're going to probably get to this area once again. And there, ladies and gentlemen, everyone is going to get uber bullish. So what happens next? History doesn't repeat, but it often does rhyme. Finally, let's have a look at some meme coins. Now, I get it. Some of you really hate meme coins. I get it. We will never ever be in this environment. It's because of Gary Gensler and his regulation on altcoins that we have the birth of meme coins. Some of these meme coins are at huge market values. They're at massive, huge market values. There's two faults to this. The first one is regulation, Gary Gensler with his heavy-handed regulation. And the second one is VCs. VCs are dumping huge market cap valuations of coins that are like 5 billion, 10 billion. And they just want to dump it on retail. Retail had enough, so they went to meme coins. Simple as that. If, however, they change the tokenomics of these altcoins, then retail will enter back into the market. PopCap. Currently at $1.23. It looks like we're kissing this area. We're going to kiss this area of $1.17. If that doesn't hold, then ultimately we're going to end up to this lower parallel channel and we're going to probably get to 85 cents. Now remember, Bobcat has massive drawbacks. It has huge drawbacks, 70 to 80% drawbacks. Every single time it cools off, has a 70% drawback, and this, ladies and gentlemen, might be another 70% drawback, and then we head back higher. That's it for now, ladies and gentlemen. Join our private members. It's just a click away. Trust me, you're not gonna regret it. Yeah, I know some of you are sitting on some losers and you continue to sit on losers. Join my private members. We're making gains after gains and you won't regret it. Make sure to like, subscribe, hit the bell notification. And if you like this stuff, check out my other stuff up here. Peace.